All right, so let's get this started. Remember that you can interact with me, #NewsCenter, or you can choose to tweet me directly at Betty M. Kialo. All right, let's go to our top story this morning. And President Uhuru Kenyatta is due to visit Western Kenya today, where he will grace the inaugural graduation at Kibabii University in Bungoma. Uhuru rescheduled his visit to Western Kenya last week after he traveled to Marrakesh, Morocco, to speak at the COP22 climate change conference, as well as lobby African leaders to support Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, for the post of chairperson of the African Union Commission. The university was awarded its own charter last year by the president. Previously, it was a constituent college of Masinde Muliro University. Bungoma Governor Kenneth Lusaka said the president will later tour pan paper mills at Webuye, where he will inspect the factory ahead of its reopening.
Mumefurahi?
All right, and so we will be focusing on that story here on News Center today. We'll also be speaking to our reporter, Robert Wanyonyi, who is currently in Bungoma, where President Uhuru Kenyatta will be touring today. Remember, like the governor said, the president will later on tour pan paper mills at Webuye, where he will inspect the factory ahead of its reopening. And so we also want to have a conversation in regards to that and politics in general, Western Kenya politics. And joining me in studio right now is Martin Andati, who is a political analyst, together with Charles Wafula, who is an analyst but an aspirant soon, right? Yes. All right, so let's get this conversation starting. All right, so we will be getting to them shortly here on the show. But yes, so that's what's going to be happening today in Western Kenya. Remember that Raila Odinga is also scheduled to be meeting delegates tomorrow in Western. He was going to be meeting the delegates in Kakamega tomorrow. It is the third visit in about 3 months to the region. And so we'll be getting to dissect just what this means for both Jubilee and CORD. All right, so let's have that studio discussion. And remember, you can chime in into the conversation, #NewsCenter, or tweet me directly at Betty M. Kialo. Let me introduce my guest again, Charles Wafula, who is a political analyst and also an aspirant. And we also have Martin Andati, who is a political aspirant. I don't know if you're an political analyst. I don't know if you're an aspirant soon.
Not now.
Not now, yeah. But later. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on News Center. So let's talk about the Western Bloc. Is it the hard-to-get girl? Because, okay, fine. So we've been seeing quite a number of rallies there from both, coalitions. So what is it with Western Kenya?
Well, the Western Kenya voter is a very progressive-minded voter, one. Two, he's the kind of...
What does progressive mean?
In the sense that he doesn't fall back to what you agreed on the last time. You need to come with a new deal to define your relationship going forward. Just like the girl whom you dated last week doesn't mean that this week you will get her. You need to really show cause why. But to move forward, I think the issue with the Western Kenya voter is that consistently we've seen the local leaders unable to give a compelling and a coherent vision that can rally the people around them. And that's why the Western Kenya voter seems to consistently support people who come out of the particular place. However, my sense is that there's also lack of a leader who can mobilize people around an issue that they feel appeals to all of them. One of the key ones emerging right now is the collapse of the sugar industry.
Right.
None of these leaders is able to rally people around that issue, and that's why they don't come through as the kind of solid leaders who people can rally around.
But Jubilee has been trying to make inroads, with certain development projects in the county. Do you agree with what Charles is saying?
Partly, yes. The approach they are using will not work.
The approach that they are using?
Yeah. Okay. The Luhya politics is bottom up. These ones are coming top down, So they will spend a lot of money. The DP has literally come to them.
Yes.
He's been to Western, I think, 15, 16 times this year. But when they check the numbers, they realize they are not doing much. Because, an outsider will not come and look like you are telling the people what they want.
Okay.
The Luhya nation, you don't talk to them. They want you to engage,
Is it that?
Yeah, that's where the problem is.
Okay.
That is basically the main problem. That's why Jubilee is struggling to sell whatever they are trying to sell to the Luhya nation.
So what exactly do they need to do, right? Because, look at it. They've given about 2 billion to Mumias to try and resuscitate it. They've now
actually 3.2 billion.
3.2 billion.
Yeah.
Then there's also that charter that has been given to Kibabii University. Yeah. Then the Pan Paper, rescue. What will it take for Jubilee to make inroads there?
The money that has gone into Mumias has not had much impact.
Right.
Because it's gone into paying salaries and paying the electricity bills. There is no can to crash because the farmers were getting debits. The guys at the factory were stealing from the farmers. So most of the farmers have uprooted the crop. And even the few who have supplied, they have waited 2-3 years down the line and they have not been paid.
Okay.
So they have no business continuing to farm cane, and there is no serious engagement between the farmers and the government. So the government keeps on pumping in money, which goes into paying salaries. The mill is working 2 days per week. So effectively, it's working 8 days a month.
Yes.
So you are keeping people earning salaries there, doing almost nothing.
Nothing.
And you also need to understand there are the small clan issues and the local dynamics, which if they were to engage with the people of the intelligence and the provincial administration and the guys who understand Luhya politics, they will be able to get it right. But as long as they are running around the way they are running around, they will not achieve much. They are trying to focus more on the Bukusu section of the Luhya nation, which occupies Bungoma and large sections of Trans Nzoia. But even after they put in what they are putting in, there is still a lot of resistance. So they must change tacts and learn to listen more.
But do they really need to change tax? Do they really need this Western Bloc anyway?
Good question. In 2013, Uhuru didn't visit Bungoma.
Yeah.
During his campaigns.
No, he went to Bungoma for a few minutes.
For a few minutes? That's not really, is that really visiting?
Yeah, there wasn't any significant campaigning by the presidential candidate of Jubilee in 2013. My sense is that they know they cannot win Bungoma. All they want to do is to see whether they can get to the 25% mark, which is a requirement of the Constitution with respect to the number of counties, that is 24, that a presidential candidate also needs to win besides the 50% plus one. But their approach is wrong. But absolutely it makes sense to court Bungoma because historically the Bukusu seem to have a better dalliance with the Agikuyu compared to the other sections. In fact, if you look back to 2007 Betty, it's only in Bungoma whereby we didn't have a lot of post-election violence and a lot of Kikuyus in other areas ran into Bungoma as a safe haven. So I guess that's why they're focusing more on Bungoma.
Let's also talk about the governor there, Lusaka moving to Jubilee Party. Does this have really an impact on the ground?
He is struggling to survive. He has done well as a governor, but the politics might consume him because, Lusaka was a bureaucrat. He's basically been a civil servant all his life. So he has not done hardcore politics. And, if the people decide you are not playing the politics the way they want, they'll kick you out. The development and your track record as a governor notwithstanding. So he will need to really try and balance it out, because it's not easy. There is a lot of emotional attachment to Ford K by the Bukusu nation.
Yes.
So that is bound to give him trouble. And especially if Weta is on the presidential ticket, or if somebody is a running mate, it will be very difficult for anybody who is vying in Bungoma, except Mandelgo, to go through on any other ticket, which is not Ford K. So they have to understand those dynamics. But I think the Jubilee guys know they'll not get majority votes there. So as he has said, you know, last time they got votes in Mount Elgon, which are who are supports, and you know the supports are Kalenjin. So they vote with their brothers in Rift Valley, and they also got a few votes pockets. Then, you know, from when Uhuru and Ruto went campaigning in 2013, they went to Mount Elgon, then left and went to Migori, because they were now looking at the Kuria vote. Then they knew that Kakamega, Vihiga, and Bungoma, and Busia, they left it to Raila to fight it out with Musalia. So, you know, where the Luhya vote becomes critical, and the Western Bloc, you know, there are also Tesos who are not Luhya, but they vote mostly the Luhyas. So where the Luhya vote becomes very critical, if you take away some of those votes, then you deny, you reduce Raila's influence. You also make life very hard for Musalia. So you actually reduce their numbers, and if you are keeping these other Jubilee numbers intact, it becomes very easy for them to retain power. And that is what they are trying to look at. But you see, now they have more foot soldiers, because last time they didn't have any serious foot soldiers. They have CS Wamalwa, they have Governor Lusaka, they have quite a number of MPs from Kakamega, Washiali, Wangwe, Shinali. They have gone to Jubilee. Then they have Mase and Odera in Busia. But Busia, they will not get much in terms of the presidential vote. But those ones went to URP and got elected against the wishes of Ojamo. So their main focus is they are looking at the historical aspect, as you are saying. If they are able to get the Bungoma side to vote, Bungoma Transoia to vote with Jubilee, then they'll know they'll get more than the 50 plus 1% and the 25%, and that is it. That is it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a bit about Raila Odinga. He's also set to go to Kakamega tomorrow. He was there in July, August, and then now he's going back there tomorrow, like I mentioned. What does this mean for ANC and for Kenya?
Well, I mean, the truth is that Raila has controlled Western politics. He controlled it in 2007. He got majority votes. He controlled it in 2013. There's no solid evidence that he's losing ground in terms of the person who will garner the largest percentage of votes. And my sense bet is that, I mean, even in Mudavadi's backyard in Maragoli, Mudavadi got 49%, Raila got 46%, which is a very narrow, margin. In Bungoma, he whooped Mudavadi, in Kakamega, in Busia. So my sense is that the Luhya leaders, that is Ford Kenya and ANC, must work much harder. And I think this is a verdict. It's a fairly harsh verdict on the part of these leaders, that the people on the ground don't believe they are offering a compelling vision for them to rally around. And going forward, my sense is that unless, say, Wetangula runs, still Bungoma will vote for Honorable Raila. And Mudavadi seems to be going towards Raila, which I think will then just consolidate the vote.
So how much of a comfort zone is, Kakamega and this whole Western Bloc for Raila Odinga as of now, even with, the inroads that Jubilee is trying to make?
Well, they have put in quite a bit of resources. But I've told you the approach has not been right. But coming back to Raila and ODM, yes. Some of us were in ODM some time back, and we've done ODM politics. So we understand them better than my brother here. Most of the people who are the grassroots officials of ODM have left. And the support, the key critical support that Raila Odinga was enjoying has gone down a bit. So it's not the same as it was in 2007. In 2007, Raila swept most of Western, except Bungoma and Transoia. And in 2013, he got, the numbers went down. Of course, in Bungoma, the votes Musalia got were attributed to the new Ford Kenya group. And Musalia and his appointment, they really need to work hard if they are going to get any numbers in Bungoma. Because Wetangula now has an upper hand. So wherever he will go, as Ford K, whatever coalition he will be in, is likely to get more votes in Bungoma and Transoia. Then Musalia also has lost. Most of the guys who have gone to UDF, the ones who are in UDF who have gone to Jubilee, they were with Musalia. So if out of the 12 MPs he had, it's only 5 who have remained with him. So there is Bunyasi in Nambale, we have Sambu in Bungoma, in Webuye, then we have Agoi, then we have Chanzu, So, and then we have Sabula in Lugari. So the other MPs have gone to Jubilee. Now they are the Jubilee appointment. The MPs who are Msalias. So and then there is Senator Khalwale who has joined 4K. Then there is Senator Khaniri who is moving towards ODM. So he has lost very serious foot soldiers. So he really needs to work. And you know, you don't just wake up overnight and create somebody who will be like Khalwale, somebody like Khaniri, who can be able to talk and be able to give you gravitas. So you see, the entry of 4K of Khalwale to 4K gives Wetangula room to get into Kakamega. The Khaniri going back to ODM, because he was in ODM initially, complicates things for Musalia in Vihiga. Otichiro is still hovering in ODM, although he's not, he's neither here nor there, but he's still, he attends Raila functions. Yes. Omulele is a family in ODM, and he's in Emuhaya, which is in Vihiga. So Musalia really needs to work. In fact, if you had asked me, he should forget about the NASA business and go back and consolidate ANC in the local backyard. Because the other possibility is, if Musalia does not do his thing right, and if he goes back to work with Raila, that will create a complication.
All right, before we get to that, you wanted to...
Yeah, I mean, the fact that MPs have moved doesn't mean people have moved. Okay. I think that's the big assumption, and that he's making. Number two, you can't challenge data. If Raila controlled Western in 2007, controlled in 2013, and there's no significant movement on the ground from the other coalitions, you begin to predict how the poll will pan out in 2013. But more importantly, I think, is to say that, in my opinion, because Luhya leaders are unable to deal with the Raila factor, which is a confounding factor within Western Province, then the way forward is to see him off, so that they then can have a better chance of playing the local politics. But so far, with respect to Bungoma, and Bungoma, there's a shift, especially with younger people. The older people absolutely will vote for Jubilee, but the younger people will still vote for Honorable Raila, from my assessment, and I keep visiting the place a lot of times.
Why old people? Why that assumption?
It is the hangover from the Kijana Wamalwa days to Eugene Wamalwa and to the combo axis, you know. So they sense that should be the right political direction for them. But the younger voter who's more liberal in the way he looks at things, they are not behind Jubilee, neither are they behind Wetangula.
All right. And do you agree with that?
To some extent, yes.
Okay.
But when you look at the polls, the last polls, you know, there have been a number of polls. Uhuru's numbers have improved in Western. Slightly. Slightly. He has gone up, and you cannot wish away those gains. Because, you know, when you lose the foot soldiers, you know, political parties are hinged on the foot soldiers. Raila could be a brand. But you see, the foot soldiers do more. Because, you know, now, why does he have to keep on going to Western every other day? Because the foot soldiers, most of them have left. So he has now got to keep on doing what the foot soldiers used to do.
But has that really affected him as a brand?
It has. No, not as a brand. But, you know, it affects you in terms of numbers. Okay. Well, when you lose, you know, if Raila appears once in a month or once in 2 months, he will not keep the party presence virtually every other day. And you know, party politics is like religion. Why do people go to church every Sunday? So that they keep on indoctrinating you to be able to you are saved, maybe. You go to church. You know, that's what it is, you know. So even politics, that's what it is. You must keep on, they must keep on working on you. They do crusades. You are in church on Sunday, they still come and visit you to evangelize you, you know. So it's the same thing even with party politics. They must try to keep on hammering the message every other day.
You know, and that you rightly say that Western Province politics, why Jubilee is getting it wrong, is because it's taking a top-down instead of bottoms-up approach. And absolutely, I mean, he was spot on that. So the claim that because foot soldiers have left, which are essentially leaders, is a problem is incorrect. Because as long as you can engage the voter directly and consistently, then you will be their darling.
Okay. So now I want us to move with the conversation. And I want us to talk a bit about Wetangula. He says that, leave it to me. Actually, on the Standard newspaper, the headline is, leave it to me. We'll get to that discussion shortly. But for now, I want us to link up with Robert Wanyonyi, who's joining us from Bungoma. Robert, thank you so much for joining us. Just give us an update of what's happening on the ground. Has President Uhuru Kenyatta arrived, and what is itinerary like today?
Thank you very much, Betty. We are at Kibabi University, and the president is expected any time from now. We are being told that in the next 30 minutes he'll be here, because his plane is expected to land at Webuye airstrip at 5 minutes from now, and from there is when he'll proceed by road to Kibabi University, where all arrangements are in place to receive him as the chancellor of this university, Betty.
All right. And after that, we understand that he's going to be touring other projects in the county. Talk to us about that also.
Yeah, according to the itinerary that we have, is that the president is expected, after finishing the graduation ceremony here at Kibabi University, he was expected to go to Pan Paper factory, where initially we were being informed that he was to officially commission or open that factory. But as it is now, is that they are now saying that the president might go to Pan Paper to just check on the progress of the factory, because according to the investor, is that they are still yet to complete the rehabilitation work. So they might just go there to check on the progress of the rehabilitation, and then maybe address a public rally outside the factory. And from there is a road, road that is supposed to be tarmac. That's where he will be going to commission that road, and then that will mark the end of his program today.
Later on to update us on the events taking place in Bungoma. Let me now come back to my panelists here in studio, and we talk a bit about Wetangula. He says that Raila and Kalonzo should finally just leave it to him. I mean, he's been in politics since 1992, but he still seems to be struggling. Is he worth the salt, really?
In my opinion, well, I mean, he has a constitutional right to aspire for the highest possible office
Well,
in the
apart
land.
from that, don't we all?
We do,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's amazing how people process their ambitions. And in Wetangula's view, he has what it takes. However, the truth is that even Bungoma, he hasn't consolidated it to a man. Mm-hmm. He hasn't, and that's what happens in Kenya. I have said before, Betty, that Kenya is not a constitutional democracy. It's an ethnocentric democracy. If you cannot get your voting bloc behind you to the last man, you don't have a competitive chance in a race as important as the presidential one. Give, take, I mean, the Bungoma vote is still tossed up with respect to presidential voting. He has he's tried to make inroads, I think, in Kakamega, in Maragoli, zero, nothing much happening in Busia. So Trans Nzoia, of course, the default Bukusu vote will support him. But I mean, in terms of his capacity to rally people and get support is difficult. Remember, the last son who was most charismatic was Honorable Omalo Kijana, and who in 1997, when he took his first stab at presidency, was only able to get 500 or so votes. Yeah. So I think Wetangula hasn't done as much in consolidating Bukusus and going beyond that to consolidate Luyas before he tries to reach out to other coalitions. So in my opinion, he's stab at presidency is dead on arrival.
What is the political capital between Musalia and Wetangula? Who is the man between the two?
Musalia has a more national appeal.
Okay.
But in terms of the Luya numbers, Wetangula is here to run for the presidency. So we cannot tell how many numbers he'll be able to put in. But of course, the Bukusu wing of the Luya nation has more numbers than any other clan. So Wetangula needs to do what he is talking about. You don't sit out there lamenting and expecting who hands over power. Nobody is going. In fact, that's laughable, because you will not expect anybody to give you the president. No, nobody is going to give you. You have got to fight for it, and you have got to justify. And in whatever formation where the opposition is sitting, Raila is still the king, because he'll tell you, look at the numbers in terms of what he got last time, in terms of the MPs, in terms of the senators, in terms of governors, even MCS.
Okay.
So whichever formula they want to, because even the opinion polls, they are still favoring him. So they will try to come up with all sorts of stories. Right. But Raila will still insist that, look, what formula do we use to to arrive on a candidate, even if he's in the boardroom. What are the dynamics?
What are you bringing to the
Yeah,
table?
so that causes a problem to my two brothers. They need to go back, and because, as he has rightly said, Kenyan politics is tribal. So you first of all consolidate your bloc. Then once you have the tribal bloc behind you, then you can be able to move. And you know, the Luhya nation, the Luhya votes in Western are 1.6 million currently. The ones out are more. They are 1.8. But you see, if you cannot be able to consolidate the ones in the backyard, you will not get these ones out here. So you will not sit there, keep on talking about, you know, the other guys have run and lost, so you should be able to give me the ticket. It will not work. Yeah, nobody is going to hand anybody a ticket in the boardroom. You must justify. He will tell you, put the money on the table. He will tell you, put the numbers on the table. If you are able to have more numbers than me, then I'll support you. Remember, even when Uhuru was talking to Ruto last
Very quickly, Martin.
The understanding was Ruto initially thought that Uhuru can support him. But Uhuru told him, no, you are my friend, I can support you. But look at the numbers. I'm bringing in more money. I'm bringing in more numbers. So naturally, I become the boss. You know?
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Charles Wafula.